Cell phones are off or on vibrate. This is actually just regular public comment. So this is the part where you get 3 minutes and you can pretty much speak about anything. So, any public comment about anything?
Anything?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, Bob.
Tracy Zudams, citizen of the City of Vero Beach. Our beloved Miss Alma-Lee Loy eloquently calls our small town a something special city. And she is so correct. We do live in a something special city with some special people willing to serve our community. Miss Alma-Lee is one of the something special civil servants that has made a lasting mark on our Vero. She knows better than most how much time, effort, love, and courage it takes to be a civil servant in this something special city. The unseen work and effort that goes on outside of these 5-hour meetings is done selflessly and for the love of this something special city and its people. It takes bravery and courage to sit up there, be in the public eye, and make decisions in the best interests of those who elected you. Many times, you go under vicious character or personal attacks as you serve out a continued commitment and calling to this something special city. There are only a few that are steadfast, willing, and able to do this job you have committed to do for our Vero. The passion that resonates in our quaint little town can sometimes register as vocal divisiveness or hurtful rhetoric and negative activism. Each of you up there, in some way, have experienced this. You love our Vero and strive for the long-term quaint quality of life and vibrancy of our Vero. It is disappointing to see and hear the collective divisiveness brought about by misleading information and ill-informed diatribe. You all may not always agree on things, but you all do agree our Vero is very special. Your job in many ways seems daunting and thankless because of the divisiveness and civil discourse that has many times been perpetuated by social media and biased journalism. So I wanted to publicly thank you. Thank you for doing what can feel like a thankless job. Thank you to those that came before you and sat bravely in those seats right there. Stay strong and steadfast, for your efforts may feel futile at times, but the vibrancy of Vero relies on the legacy of your efforts for generations to come. Thank you for your passionate pursuit, your commitment, and your calling to this office, and do not let outspoken, ostentatious outcry distract you from continuously seeking a collaborative, compassionate way to bring our community together. So thank you for being the special civil servants in our something special city.
Thank you, Ms. Zudam.
Thank you.
Very, very kind. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your kind words. Thank you for your service on hospital district.
Yeah, let's not forget that.
Thank you.
Mr. Gafanti.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Joseph Gafanti, and I pay taxes to the City of Vero Beach. I'd like to read to you something that was written by Ken Rubin. Does that name sound familiar to any of you? No? Well, no. It should.
Not to me.
This is what he had to say. He's the lead attorney for Florida Power and Light. If a key provision, and that key provision is the adjustment, acquisition adjustment, excuse me. If that key position is not approved as proposed by Florida has made it clear, Florida Power and Light has made it clear that, this is my own writing, so I can't read it, that the transaction cannot be consummated. I think you got that. That's pretty straightforward. That unfortunate outcome would turn this decade-long effort from a win-win to lose-lose for all customers, both those served by Florida Power and Light and Vero Beach customers who have struggled so long to enjoy the lower bills and excellent service provided by Florida Power and Light. And that was written by Ken Pruitt. That's written by an attorney, and I'll translate it into English. The Florida Power and Light alleges that they're overpaying for the system, and that they want a rebate. And the way they're going to get this rebate, and I don't know what the number is, but there is a program, a number, because this has been proposed by Florida Power and Light. I don't know what the number is, but what they're going to do is we're going to get the rates of Florida Power and Light rates, but we're going to have a surcharge. And I'm surprised that the too few people that I've talked to that work in the city and know nothing about this. So this is a wonderful contract that we have. So what happens is that, just use $20 million for example. The City of Vero Beach is going to get $20 million after they pay off the gangsters over at FMPA and OUC. We're going to wind up with $20 million, and the taxpayers, the ratepayers, are going to have to reimburse Florida Power and Light for that money. So essentially, what it boils down to is we're giving the ratepayers are paying Florida Power and Light, and Florida Power and Light's paying the city, and therefore it's like another tax. That's what it's tantamount to. And I'm surprised that hardly anybody that I've talked to, even the city employees, have no idea that this is going on. So this is the kind of garbage that has been going on, these backroom wheeling dealings that nobody knows about, and we're not getting our fair shake. The public never does when you have city managers operating back rooms and doing contracts.
Thank you, Mr.
Now, are there any questions about that? Now, please, what I want you to know is that...
Mr. Cafante, you have to summarize that.
Thank you. Pardon?
Your time's up, so just
thank you.
Summarize.
I am finished. If you have a comment about what I just said, please make it now so I can respond to it, because once I leave the podium, I'm going home. So please don't say something after I'm gone. If you have a comment about what I just said, and that's true.
I have a comment. I don't think you should disparage our city manager because all your facts are not correct.
This is a piece of garbage. What is not correct? This is the problem with you people. You think I'm going to leave here and then you can tell the public that I'm wrong. I got this right out of the docket.
Mr. Cafante, the Public Service Commission is not going to allow for a surcharge on our customers any different than they would.
How are they going to get the money? How are they going to recover the money? It says right here, the contract will not go through unless they get, they called it...
It's not a surcharge from our...
They call it...
How they recover the money is their business decision. The fact of the matter is that our contract is very specific. Our customers, the 34,000 customers, cannot be charged a surcharge.
How are they going to, how are they going to get, where are they going to get the money from? Pick it off a tree?
That's the Florida Power and Light issue.
Yeah.
Ours is to protect our customers.
Well, wouldn't you know if you were involved in the contract, wouldn't you know that this existed and where they were going to get the money from? I would have asked the attorney, where are you going to get this money from?
Well, My concern was our residents and our customers, and that's what the contract was written to protect them. There is no surcharge in the contract. We will get the same, my bill will be reflective of any other residential customer in the Florida Power and Light utility business.
And this says they're going to get the money, and I want to know where it's going to come from.
Well, you might want to call Florida Power and Light. I just
Yeah,
know
well,
this.
why don't you do it? That's your job, not mine. I have a life to live.
Mr. Gaffani.
I'm not getting paid $180,000 a year to protect the public.
Well,
Good evening.
good evening, sir. Thank you for the input. Yes, ma'am.
It's a good follow-up to Tracy.
Hi, Linda Moore, Gilded Mermaid. I'm going to try not to say the P word in this whole thing. But okay, so I'm going to talk about something I don't even think probably is an issue to anybody else. The town hall meeting, Councilwoman Moss, I love the idea of that. It's so great when we all get together and we all talk about stuff, because like the last time, I think you were at that last meeting that we had, I'm not sure exactly who organized that, but that was great because all the business owners got together, we talked about things. That was the first time I ever heard how the gallery owners felt about gallery stroll night. And they feel like it's their night, and they don't really want like other people selling art in not a gallery on their night, which I totally understand. And also, like, not saying that word, but it's very crowded downtown on those nights, the gallery stroll night. Super
the P
crowded.
word is parking?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
I'm a little slow.
I was going to try so hard to not bring it up. I was going to try so hard.
yes, there have been complaints.
So, you know, that is also a problem. So your town hall thing, none of the businesses can come on that night. Man, we're so busy. Because it's the busiest night
Do you think
of the
it'll create a
month.
parking problem?
No, I just want you to have your town halls on a different night so we could all go.
Okay, well,
Because none of us can go.
maybe nobody will show up, so we don't have to worry.
So, I mean, but you should consider suggestions. If you're going to do a downtown town hall in the Masonic Lodge, think it's great. If you've got to do it on a Friday, maybe the third Friday when we have that other little art thing, that's a good night because you have people downtown. Or maybe like the second Friday when there's nothing going on, or a Wednesday. Everybody could come on a Wednesday.
Well, we'll see.
So-
We'll see what happens, but thank you.
That was
I
it.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys have a nice day.
Thank you very much.
Good job, you guys, I think, too.
Linda did
Thank you,
call
Linda.
me today about the P word or parking, as I say.
That's why I wasn't going to say it. I'm like, oh, God.
And people can park at the Freshman Learning Center as long as it's not overnight parking and does not conflict with the school activities.
We just can't put signs up.
But that's good to know, to let the public know
It
that
would be
you're not
nice.
going to, there's no tow-away sign there, so
But no one knows they could.
as long as it's not during school hours and not overnight,
That is correct.
they will not enforce anyone parking.
We just have to let people know they could park there somehow without signage.
The superintendent-
We'll work it
Maybe
out.
you could put a sign by your businesses. Some of your businesses could
We're
say
gonna-
parking is
I'm going
permitted.
to talk to them
at,
about that.
You know,
If we had a town hall, we could all talk about it together. Just not on gallery stroll night.
We're talking about parking.
Thank you, Linda.
thank you.
Anyone else for public comment this evening? Going once, going twice. Okay, so let's move on to the consent agenda, and I will let the city manager get into that.
The first item is this would be a third amendment to the lease with Riverside Theater. There's a 1.4 acre spot that's behind it, and it's right next to where the water tower is, and they want to use it for parking. They presently use it for parking now, but it's unimproved, and they would like to be able to accommodate, because they have a lot of senior folks that use the Riverside Theater to do that, so they would like to include that in the footprint of their lease. The second is the architectural services work order number 4. This is pertaining to the police department. It's going to be a new roof, windows, and it is a grant that is a 75-25. It's going to be about a $700,000 project. FMEA has approved. Sorry about the slip. The P word came.
That's the F word.
FMEA, FEMA has has approved of the use of this engineer and the architectural firms to do those improvements on the building. This contract is for $62,270. Again, the total project's about $700,000. The city's share would be 25% of that. I'll entertain any questions you have. I'm recommending approval of both of these items.
Okay, a couple questions. First of all, the FEMA funding for this, is this like the normal FEMA funding where they said the check's on the way and the fuel truck will be there?
No, sir, this is a combination and it is a grant. So we have it, a grant.
Okay. And then in regards to the Riverside Theater, Mr. Moses is here. Could we ask him to come up and speak to that? I would love to hear his input on it.
We just need parking. They're using extra handicap parking? Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
John,
yeah. I mean, he drove
we hate to wake you
drove
up
that
back
whole
there,
way and is here, and he's very articulate and good, so we have the opportunity. So.
No, good evening. I have to say, when I saw the orange ties, my instinct was go Vols. So.
Whoa, there we are. Now we're talking.
Sorry.
You got what you want, John.
You thought you had parking.
And if Town Hall is a huge success, I can have it at Riverside Theater, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
exactly.
We'll see.
In short, the land that is directly east of Riverside Theater, as it now tends to be, we have been able to utilize that land as overflow parking in order to offset the increase of parking on the weekends of events. As Riverside Park is a very popular park and more events continue to be put in, we have a very unique problem of our events are timed. We have to get 700 people to that theater at a specific time. We have great relationships with all the organizations that use the park, some of which we actually utilize that space with and who I've spoken with, the Garden Club, the Art Club. So that land is essentially, by adding that to our lease, would kind of open the doorway to making it better, primarily for our handicap accessibility. As of
How many spaces do you think you're going to get in there?
Right now, it looks like about 26 handicap spaces and 88 regular parking spaces. So that, in the long term, the immediate is the handicap. But in the long term, that will also offer some relief to the unimproved area and as well as the lot that's across the street.
So okay, and again, I'm not as adept as some of my other contemporaries here. You're talking about the area to the east of the theater, correct?
That's correct, going up to Mockingbird.
Okay, and right now that's undeveloped, correct?
That's correct. It's the remnants of the old water tower. In fact, the concrete, supports or slabs are still in the center.
So how are you going to transform that so it's handicap accessible to your patrons?
What we would eventually do is expand the handicap lot that currently is on that side. We would be able to double that, and in the short term, we would continue to be able to use the grass area as the overflow. We would be developing a plan as time goes on.
And an impermeable surface, are we talking about? Kind of talk to that.
That's talk that we were welcome to have as we start developing that plan, absolutely. So we want to be sensitive to that and to the city and to the park. But the part with the handicap, the 26 spaces, that would need to be something that is, of course, level and flat for the patrons to be able to walk. We're also exploring potential cover walkways to get to the building and improving the east side of for access for handicap as well.
Under the lease agreement, any of those improvements would have to come back for approval by the city.
Okay, yeah, because I mean, that's naturally, the concept is good. I just want to see the details so that we can not, we're in keeping with the rest of Riverside.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Code for the city says all new development has to retain the water on site. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So in order to get a permit, it's going to have to...
Yeah, and the impermeable or permeable surfaces are preferred where practical to do that. And so, and John and I have had these conversations, the trees are not to be damaged or removed and this kind of stuff.
And will that allow for for the activities that are in Riverside Park to have access to that?
We have relationships currently with the Garden Club and the Art Club.
Right.
They utilize that area only for volunteer staff and for staff that are, dealing with money. And so they have to actually cross through Riverside Park, Riverside Theater land to get to that spot as it is now. I've spoken to both. We'll continue those relationships, of course, and then, of course, any other organizations. There's many times throughout the year, it'll be there, it'll be open, so we're good neighbors. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Any other discussion from council?
No.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Need a vote on the...
Public comment on the matter? Seeing none, I'll...
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Tammy?
No roll call necessary.
No roll call? Okay, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Okay, moving on to city council matters, new business.
I think that's my matter.
Yes.
I'd like to start off by saying that was an example of the attack on the city manager, and I want to apologize for that. I mean, you're not even elected, so no one should be attacking you.
Yeah, that was easy.
No, you're not even elected. So, but that's not the kind of discourse we want to have. That's not the way we want to treat each other. I just want to speak very, very simply and very plainly, and these are just requests, not here to lecture. These, as I said, I just want to be respectful in asking for respect. My first request is that and I'm just asking this of all council members, and I include myself in this, to supply sufficient background materials as appropriate in order to allow the council and the community to participate effectively in the discussion of the matter. Having proper background materials available in advance also would make the meetings more efficient and businesslike, which is a stated goal of the members of this council. For example, and I hadn't thought of it this way, but it's true today with Dodgertown. If you don't supply enough materials in advance, it can give, and this was mentioned to me. I didn't think of it, but it can give the appearance of impropriety, that there are dealings that are going on that are not entirely transparent. And with regard to members of council, and I've spoken with the city attorney on this, we are not limited to the 10-minute presentation time frame. That's not correct. We are elected by the people to represent them, and we are allowed to speak on their behalf as we deem appropriate and necessary. Public comment is intended to allow the public to comment on any matter of official concern for 3 minutes. I think, individuals have a right to speak even if their comments might be considered repetitive with regard to previous speakers. And I understand the concern in that regard. The meetings do run long, but they always have the whole time I've been on council. That has not changed. And remember, people come here to be heard, and they don't know necessarily who else will be here. They don't have a crystal ball, so they don't know someone else is going to say, what they're going to say. But it also, in a way, it informs us, because if a number of people are saying the same thing, then we know we should give extra weight to that. So I don't object to that, and I think in a way it can be limiting free speech, and I'm not in favor of that. And at the last meeting, there were approximately 40 to 50 people who were present to speak with regard to my matters, specifically the conduct, which we're addressing now, and River House. And by the vote that was taken at the last meeting, 3-2, to move these matters from number 4 to number 10 on the agenda, there was no one left to speak on the matters 5 hours later. And I know that, technically this is legal, but, operationally it deprives people of free speech. So I'm just respectfully requesting that we, as a council, endorse and encourage free speech in these ways, and also to be always be respectful. Whatever medium we're on, I'm not on Facebook currently, but I know there have been problems with Facebook and the radio. And I wanted to, with regard to remarks made by members of council having to do with the community over different matters, and I wanted to say a special thanks to to Ms. Janie Graves Hoover for her letter prompting action in this regard. And we have received other such correspondence, and her letter is posted on the internet, but I'm just going to read 2 sentences from it, because I think it was a beautifully written letter. She's asking for respect in a very respectful way, and I really respect that. What could I say? It was great. And I'll read the 2 sentences. The City of Vero Beach deserves our elected officials to represent us with dignity and decorum. Regardless of private thoughts on people's opinions and issue positions, City of Vero Beach public officials need to keep remarks, social media posts, and correspondence respectful. So thank you very much, Ms. Janie Graves Hoover. I really appreciate that. And that is it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
And, we're on to Dodgertown.
We are on to Dodgertown.
Is it all right? I attended the county commission meeting today. It was 2 hours. May I say a few words with your indulgence about that meeting? Would that be all right? To set it up since they're here?
You're on the agenda.
Yeah, I want to, I didn't realize they would have, the special call meeting, but they did, and I want to thank them for that. It showed real concern for that piece of property. It was a very interesting meeting. They didn't have much time to prepare for it, especially, really need to commend Commissioner Flusher, who's, managed to be the father of the bride and prepare for a special call meeting the same weekend. I mean, you talk about small town stories, and congratulations, that's beautiful, and thank you for being there today. But some of the things that came out of that meeting, these were just, and I'll invite them up to expand upon this, but what I heard them say is, and I agreed, Mr. Jason Brown stated at the beginning of the meeting, he said that this whole thing, and I'm referring to Dodgertown now, was happening, quotes, a little faster than I expected. And I agree with Mr. Brown, and I think, everyone feels that way, that this is happening a little faster than any of us expected. Some of the points that were made at this meeting were that this property, this land, is environmentally sensitive in terms of the location of the main relief canal and also 2 injection wells on this property, that there was concern about parking for historic Dodgertown, and the imminence of some kind of arrangement with Major League Baseball, the timing of this, selling or potentially selling of the property was not propitious. It was concern expressed regarding the tourism, from which the city would benefit and any loss of tourism dollars, and also protecting this property as a legacy for the future, what I refer to as open space. And what was especially interesting to me, and they were very frank, and thank you for that, I appreciate that, and I'm directing this to the county commission and also Mr. Brown. They were very frank about expressing their surprise that and all this is videotaped and recorded, and a number of people in the audience also attended that meeting today, but for anyone who didn't, you can watch the video on the county's website. But they expressed surprise that the majority of this council was so set on proceeding when the community is so obviously against it. And thank you for being so open about that. The only thing I had any problem with was if you're going to use tourist tax to pay for it, but you know my tourist tax story, so half of it is mine, so don't use my money to buy my property. That's all I ask. Anyway, they voted 4-1 with Commissioner Solari opposed to making an offer for the entire parcel because they had different alternatives that they were considering, so it was a 4-1 vote. Then in a second motion, they voted 3-2 to offer $2.4 million because they had to authorize Mr. Brown to do that. And with the 3-2 vote, the 2 opposed were Mr. Solari and Mr. Zork were opposed. So I thank you for letting me report on that, and I guess we probably want to invite them to speak since they've been sitting so patiently. Welcome to our world.
Well, since we're talking about points of interest here, we've got to bring some facts to the table. I understand people don't get information as quickly, perhaps, as they would like, but the fact of the matter is, You and I were both on council when this property was voted into surplus. It's been listed for the last 2 years, over 2 years now. And regardless of which way you voted on that, the public has had more than ample opportunity to consider any sort of ideas about what would be the highest and best use. So it's tough for me to sit here and listen consistently that there's been no time given on anything with this property, because that is just factually inaccurate. So I just want that to be known.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, but it's your facts that are wrong. We were not on council when it was declared surplus property. That was in 2015, and the only current member of this council who voted on that is Mr. Howell. That's it.
Okay, well, that's even more time then that we've had to consider, what's going on. I mean,
no, but I'm talking about this specific deal. This specific, offer has gone by so quickly without any background information. Let me say one more thing, if you would.
First of all, excuse me, I was speaking, and then you've interrupted me, okay?
Right,
so second of all, we've entertained multiple offers, all of which have been turned down for one reason or another. I just resent the fact that you are saying that there's been no transparency here and that the public hasn't been aware of it. It's been listed for years. There have been any opportunity for anyone in the public to come up here, including yourself, and discuss this matter. You could have brought any number of proposals before this council as to what you felt was highest and best use. So, we're trying to fix an issue here, which is there's a piece of vacant property sitting there with no trespassing signs on it that's costing the city $600,000 a year in interest payments. We're looking for solutions. Nothing has been made final here, but it paints the council in a bad light when you accuse some of us up here of not being transparent when that's simply not the fact.
Well, what I'm asking for, let me be more specific. I'm asking for more backup information. When I was mayor, for example, I had FPL and FMPA. I told them both that they did not submit their entire presentation before the noon deadline. And by the way, for the community, materials need to be submitted on Wednesday noon for the meeting the following Tuesday. And I always held their feet to the fire. You might recall, we always had their slide deck was uploaded. So you had a whole week to look at what was going to be presented. This has not happened in this case. What I'm talking about specifically is, and this is a matter of public record, we have one-page letters from them that basically don't say much of anything, and by them I mean the developer, proposed developer, and that's it. I mean, then they would come in and make their presentation, and we did not have the presentation in advance, and this actually goes back to the point I made earlier, that we need to have these background materials so that we can be better informed prior to the meeting, and also that the community can participate more fully in any of our decisions, that they understand it before they get to this room, and we understand it before we get to this room.
I recall backup materials.
So, yeah, but I mean, that's not what was presented. They presented more than that when they got here, and what I'm asking for is to have that in advance. That's all. And my position's clear.
I think the point, though, was that you just gave a talk on civility, and then you accused people of making some rash judgment on something that's been discussed for over 3 years. We hired a national search firm that advertised this property nationally. Is that correct?
Real estate firm.
Yeah, Collier International.
Okay, and they did bring us an option, but the city council decided that we did not want residential there. It didn't fit with the culture of our community, and so this is another consideration. And the county apparently is going to have one too. So just making statements that we were like rushing into things or being lacking transparency is an insult. It's not civil.
Well, you were insulted by the county commission and then too, and many members of the community. So
for the record,
consider that an insult. It was.
For the record, there was no insult. I watched the entire meeting, and there was no insults made to any members of city council whatsoever by any members of the county commission.
No, I'm just saying if you consider that an insult. I didn't take any of it as an insult.
For the record, I was on council in 2015. I did vote to make this excess and surplus property, and I signed it, and I defend that council's decision, and that was 3 years ago now.
Yes, I have it here, and actually, I'm sorry, I couldn't find it exactly when you were speaking, Vice Mayor Sykes, but the council that voted in favor of it included Mayor Jay Kramer, Vice Mayor Randy Olds, Councilmember Pilar Turner, and Councilmember Dick Winger, as well as our current mayor. So it was those five. It was not decided by this council.
Furthermore, maybe my memory is not serving me correctly, but I do not recall anybody here to speak up against. I could be wrong, but I don't recall anybody here to speak up against that decision. So some of the same people that have spoken against it, maybe at that time, I don't know. I don't recall them. It's kind of like people show up at the 11th hour all the time. It's almost our MO these days. And I hate for Vero Beach to be, known as the city that shows up at the last minute, because it really, I tell you what, in the future, when you need an RFP from a contractor and you've got something that needs to be done, they're going to look at it and say, hell no, I'm not doing that, because look, every time they put it out to bid, you had a developer that spends maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars, and at the last minute it gets yanked out from under. And
so that just happened to us with our dock repair at the end of Royal Palm Point. The reason why it's taken so long is no contractor is willing to do a bid. But if you want to put in a dock at your house, they're falling all over each other to try and get your bid. So that is a fact. We've experienced it.
Any more discussion on Dodgertown? Well,
No, I don't, other than, I'll let you decide.
We're waiting for the public comment, and then we'll continue the conversation.
Well, this was, if I'm not mistaken, this was just something that Mrs. Moss wanted to speak about. Am I wrong?
Well, we moved the city manager matter forward so that it follows it.
That's right.
So
That's right.
perhaps,
Can we do that now?
My
perhaps,
apologies.
I think city manager might want to speak on it.
I can't read my own handwriting either.
Would that be the proper thing?
Yes.
I think
Okay.
it would.
Yes.
You've got in front of you a contract that we have negotiated with the potential developer. They're here tonight, by the way. Their price was $2.1 million for the property, and they conformed to the request of the city council. A, they left out residential, and B, they showed us areas of open space that they wanted and have talked to us about the sports and historical theme of the site. Again, they're here to discuss this, but with the county commission having their meeting today, which was a public meeting, obviously, they heard about the $2.4 million that the county was proposing. So their latest proposal in writing is $2.430 is the price that they sent to us today, this afternoon, late. But the contract is prepared. One of the things that's very important about the contract, that is a net number to us. They pay all closing costs and all costs associated with that, and so that is a net number to the city. I'll answer any questions. You may want the county to make their presentation since they're here. I was not present for their meeting, nor did I watch their meeting. Jason did send me a couple emails before we got through the codes of names, but we finally got to the...
I wasn't able to watch that either, Mr. Manager.
I'd like to ask that Jason come up and Commissioner O'Brien, Chairman O'Brien as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council and staff. Peter O'Brien, I'm currently chairman of the Indian River County Board of County Commissioners. We had a special call meeting this morning, went for about 2 hours to discuss the Dodgertown Golf Course property. And one of the, I guess the main underlying, well, really two, but the main underlying themes of this was that we were trying to find a way that the original purpose of the purchase of the property for open space, how can that be maintained at the same time that this site, it isn't just an old golf course. It has historical significance, not only for the baseball aspect of the Brooklyn Dodgers coming here to have their spring training, but the strides that Walter O'Malley and the Dodge organization made in racial equality. And the main reason that course was built was so that the black players that were now on the Dodgers roster would be able to have a place to play golf. And I know we all probably don't like to think about this, but back when Jackie Robinson broke the racial barrier, anybody, black people could not play on any golf course in the city of Vero Beach or in Vero County. So this really is a historic property, baseball-wise and for racial equity. It also helps keep the entire Dodgertown track complete. It'll be one large campus. It'll be an entity. It won't be subdivided. It won't be different ownership. It'll all be collated under one ownership, and this will allow for things like the fireworks to be able to still go on after the Jackie Robinson game. We can still do Jake Owen concerts, Harvest Festival, St. Helens Harvest Festival, and any other large event that comes forward with a unified campus devoted to Dodgertown activities, it'll work. It'll provide the greatest amount of flexibility going forward. I know that some of the things that the developer is proposing might be attractive, and I talked about this today. You know, I think at some point building another hotel on the property might make a lot of sense, particularly if Major League Baseball comes in and drawing large crowds. You know, so I could see where that would have some tie-in with the facility to help house teams and things like that there on the campus. But by having one unified parcel, we have that flexibility and we have time. We don't need to decide what we want to do with it tomorrow. We will have time to get more public input, see what everybody likes. If we do end up with the entire parcel, we talked about part of it could be a stormwater park with trails and hiking so people have passive recreational use on the property, and still try to stay far enough south that we're out of the FAA no wading bird fly zone area, but it would still give a public purpose to the property, open space, passive recreation, things like that. So, as Ms. Moss highlighted, we did have the first vote was, do we want to purchase half the property or the entire parcel? We did vote 4-1 to purchase the entire parcel. I think Commissioner Solari did vote against that, but I think his main thought was he wanted to use all tourist tax money for the purchase. And we thought that by using a mix of tourist tax and sales tax would give us more flexibility for future uses of the property. Example like the Stormwater Park, it really isn't an allowed use for tourist tax money. So if we wanted to be able to utilize some of that property for a stormwater treatment area, that part would be the percentage used through sales tax. So we voted 4-1 to make an offer for the full parcel. And then came the really hard part, when you have to negotiate out in the open and pretty much show your poker hand to the other side in a televised hearing, you're a little bit at a disadvantage. We discussed whether to offer the $2.1 million, which is your current offer, and I kind of thought that, well, no, I think we need to do something a little bit better. We need to get the city, a good reason, not only for doing the right thing, which I think is the right thing, to keep it an open space and keep it part of Dodgertown, but to financially to make it a better package for the city, to give you something that you can, wrap your hands around and embrace. So we did vote. It was a 3-2 vote. Commissioner Zork and Solari were opposed, but we did vote to authorize Jason to offer to you tonight $2.4 million for the 35-acre parcel known as Dodgertown Golf Course. I'll let Jason get into a couple of the details. I think we're be very happy to go ahead and kind of just take over the same contract, so the closing costs and all that, so it'd still be a net figure to the city. We think we know that we'll need to get 2 appraisals done because of the dollar amount, but we think we can close a lot quicker than 90 business days that's in the contract, so we'll be able to get you all the money and get it closed a little faster. And I'll go ahead and let Jason handle a couple of the more details of the contract and be available for questions.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, City Council. Thank you for allowing us to be here tonight to talk about this important topic for the city and the county. I just want to start out by saying there was some discussion earlier about comments that I had made about how quick the process had gone. I just want to put that into context. That was me apologizing to my Board of County Commissioners for bringing this at a special call meeting. I will say that the time between when the City Council made the determination, I think it was August 21st, and this contract coming back, I had hoped we would have a county commission meeting before now and then. Our last county commission meeting was August 14th, and the next scheduled meeting wasn't until September 11th, next Tuesday. So I just wanted to make sure that we're not casting any aspersions on the city in the process, and you have an important decision to make. Want to kind of tag on to some of the things the chairman said without being repetitive. I think that this parcel, it was originally part of Dodgertown. We think it is integral to what is happening there. We think that going forward, I think Major League Baseball can do some really great things at that facility. I think Historic Dodgertown and Mr. O'Malley has been great for the county, for the city, for the operations there, the amount of economic impact with many of the folks coming from all over the country, all over the world actually, to partake in activities there has benefited the county. And as great as that has been, I think involvement from Major League Baseball and their marketing muscle and their reach to all corners of baseball can be definitely beneficial to the community, and I think they can really take things even to the next level there. We think that the history there that Commissioner O'Brien talked about with the golf course, it is worth more combined as one parcel than it is separate. There's just synergies there between the two properties. It ended up in two different ownerships for a lot of reasons. When the property was initially acquired by the county and the city in 2001, that parcel was held separate. There was going to be some development in the area. That didn't work out. The city purchased the property. And I would just say, I would just appeal to this board. Our goal is not to interfere with the purchase from the buyers. They're in business to try and make money, and they could have a very good development there. I'm just hopeful that this council would consider kind of the tie goes to the runner. Pardon the expression there for the baseball analogy. That what I think the county what Major League Baseball can do there with a joint facility with the parking that would be needed. We've talked about, you guys have talked about parking lot. That's only one of the aspects. There is the continued open space, which continues the intent that the city, I think, purchased the property for, and to preserve that property as part of Historic Dodgertown, which is historically what it is. And so it maintains the history. And then I'll just add one other item. The City Council did declare this property in 2015 surplus. At that time, the county agreed to release a covenant that was restrictive, that wouldn't have allowed the development that's being considered on that property. So in 2015, the city came to the county and said, we'd like to market this property. We need to get out from under this debt. And the county agreed, and there were some things that the county got in the transaction as well. But I want to say that in the interlocal agreement that was updated in 2015, the county did release those restrictive covenants. That agreement does also have some restrictions that the county has an interest in ensuring that there are not incompatible uses next to Historic Dodgertown, and there are some various there's some various language addressing that. So I'm here asking you that we think the county has made a good offer for this property, and hope that you will consider that favorably. And we're available for any questions you may have.
Thank you.
And I would just like to close. This morning we did get an email from Mr. Hilbert, and he expresses his commitment to trying to work with us on any future needs with Major League Baseball, but it was kind of contingent on accommodating in any way possible after the purchase of the property. And the board, we just felt that once it's been sold, it's kind of, despite all the nice words and stuff, it may not be exactly the accommodations we would need, so we thought it'd be better to go ahead and move forward with the purchase of the whole property. So again, as I mentioned, we have the flexibility for anything that might come up. And even with, if we could work out the parking, we still have the issues of the fireworks and night games and concerts and things like that that probably would not be compatible with the proposed development. So that's pretty much it. And if you all have any questions, we'd be glad to try to answer them.
Commissioner O'Brien, has Mr. O'Malley been in contact with the county that you're aware of?
Yes, we have spoken to Mr. O'Malley quite a bit lately. He's very aware of what's going on. Currently, and this is as of Friday, I think we spoke with Mr. O'Malley. Major League Baseball is very interested in taking over the lease from Mr. O'Malley. That's one thing we know that we're very strong on. We have a couple, three issues that we need to clarify for Major League Baseball. And I think Jim has been working with us on a couple of the driveway accesses into the property and working with the property owners to get that. So we're pretty good on getting that resolved. Future parking was a major concern of them because currently Dodgertown has a handshake agreement with the owners of what we call the DT Commons property, that kind of rounded triangular shape just north of Dodgertown, but that currently is listed for sale, so that may go away. We do have parking agreements with the City of Vero Beach on the north side of Aviation Boulevard. There's two parcels there that we can currently use for parking, but again, at some point in the future, if the city ever needs to do something with those parcels for the airport operations, we would lose that parking as well. I think probably the most encouraging thing is Major League Baseball has taken a very long, futuristic look at this property. And so to me, that says, they're talking about being here for many, many, many years, if not permanently. And so they're looking 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road and say, well, if this parcel gets sold and the city develops these parcels, where is our parking? So I think Major League Baseball is very interested, very committed to coming to Vero Beach. And I think the economic benefit that we all get now from what Mr. O'Malley's group has been doing at Dodgertown will just explode when you bring in the marketing power of Major League Baseball. So, but Major League Baseball has kind of said, it doesn't make sense if we're going to be leasing the majority of the compound. It really wouldn't make sense for us to just buy a piece of it. So one other thing in there is if we do combine this, it might make it more attractive to Major League Baseball to purchase the entire parcel as well. So that's kind of where my understanding of Major League Baseball is right now.
Commissioner O'Brien, do you have any guesstimate at all as to a time frame that something like that could start to happen?
Well, Mr. O'Malley has been talking to Major League Baseball, I would say close on to about a year now. Back in the end of June, we had a conference over in Orlando, and at that point, County Administrator Brown, County Attorney's Office, Mr. O'Malley, and representatives from Major League Baseball had a face-to-face meeting at the end of June. We have received from Major League Baseball the initial, I guess you kind of call it the offer sheet or the term sheet. And then, Jason, we have a meeting in a couple of weeks. In 2 weeks with Major League Baseball to go over the terms of the offer term sheet, how you want to call it. So I would say things are moving very quickly. Mr. O'Malley, he's been involved and engaged and very helpful in moving this forward. He feels very strongly it will happen. And my understanding is Mr. O'Malley doesn't usually go out on a limb and, say anything like that. He kind of plays his cards close to his chest. But I would say it's very feasible, before the end of the year we might have an agreement with Major League Baseball. don't hold me to that, but it's moved along far enough where it's not just a discussion. I mean, like I said, we have a term sheet, we have a meeting in 2 weeks to go over that and negotiate that, so it's very far down the road.
Understood. I appreciate you giving us a timeline on that, and I hope that the city can be involved in some of those discussions as well.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
I guess after that, now I'm curious, at any point along the way, have they said they want this piece of Dodgertown Pines since it's so important to their future? Why are they not here making an offer for this property?
Well, once again, that's the hope that things would not have moved so quickly over here, is that I don't think we're at that point where we don't have an agreement between Major League Baseball and the county. We're still working that out. We're hopeful that we'll get there. So it's a lot for them to go out on a limb. It's a little bit for us to go out on the limb, which was some of the reason that there has been a hesitation on the county's part on this at first. And to me, I can understand where they would be leasing the majority of the facility and then owning some small portion of the facility. That might not make business sense for them. They're making a commitment to a lease of our property, but then looking at a multi-million-dollar purchase that if the lease ends, they've got this other piece of property. I do want to say that one of the things that is important is the history to them, the history with Jackie Robinson, the history with integrating baseball. I think, now this is me just talking about what I think is important to them, I'll say, so this is me speaking, not for them, but they could do this facility anywhere in the country. The reason that they're looking here is that history that's there, and I think that the whole package is what's important to them. That the full facility with the history of what's on this Dodgertown golf course parcel, that whole package is worth more than what the county owns currently.
And just for public consumption, we're not getting a baseball team here. We're getting what is it that they're thinking of doing here? Just so everyone knows.
So yes, so this wouldn't be a spring training thing like we used to have with the Dodgers or the Braves or somebody like that coming here. What they're looking at doing is similar to what has been happening there with historic Dodgertown, with Vero Town, that has been with Mr. O'Malley, that has been leasing that, is really the amateur sports. You have your high school kids, your little league kids, your college age folks that come and play baseball here, and so that is what is the continued model. They have something. Major League Baseball is already a client. They have some elite development academies that they bring in their prospects, future baseball, Major League Baseball players probably that are 14, 15, 11, 12, things like that, and they bring them here. They also have something that's called RBI, like runners batted in, returning baseball to inner cities. That's an initiative of Major League Baseball that I think this fits really well into their plans. So that is what they would look at doing, not a spring training, but something that's more like what has been going on there since 2009, which I will say, and I've told everyone, has a larger economic impact than spring training. Spring training is sexy. It's really cool. Hey, Los Angeles Dodgers spring trained here for 60 years, right? But that happens in March, April, when, as you've talked about, we don't have a hard time filling up hotel rooms and parking spaces in this town or this county, right? But when the Dodgers were here, you had the Vero Dodgers also. So the facility was blocked off. We couldn't have other events that might bring people from out of town in the rest of the year. So what goes on there now, summertime, September, the very bottom of the tourism season, they bring folks here to play baseball, play softball, and then stay in the hotels, go to the restaurants, go to the shops. So we think the economic impact is more year-round, or we know it's year-round, and it's more sustained and a better economic impact than spring training itself. So we think that's a very positive thing going forward.
And just for my information, are they on the tax roll? Are those properties on the tax roll, or because it's owned by the county, it's not?
It is not on the tax roll because it's county owned.
But some private businesses that are on,
At the airport, they do pay, if they have a lease on some of the properties out there.
it's relevant, because if we're talking about a commercial enterprise that will be on the tax rolls for years to come, all right.
That's definitely something you need to weigh in making your decision, yes.
All right. Thank you.
I just would like to add, it won't be a spring training team, but they have talked about hosting a major league spring training game or two at Dodgertown, and they're committed to doing the Jackie Robinson game, work with Harvest Festival, St. Helens, all of that community stuff they've committed to. They did talk about bringing in major league spring training games as well. So.
Very good. Thank you.
Mr. City Manager, did I hear you correctly? I've got so much paperwork here. Did I hear you say the contract's in front of us?
Yes, you have the contract as finally in its final form. The thing that changed was the selling price. It's 2.430 now.
Well, maybe instead of trying to hunt it, maybe you could just tell me what's the with Mr. Holbert, what's the closing period of time that we're talking about? I mean, are we 90 days out? Is that what I heard?
I believe so. Let me see.
And the developer's here if we want him.
Yeah, I do want them to speak also. So, Mr. Holbert, this would be a good time if you want to come up and say a few words and maybe get some questions from council.
Mark Holbert. Thanks for having me again. Just speaking to the other proposal real briefly, actually maybe speaking towards our proposal, I thought we were going for the highest and best use of the property, and I still believe that we have proposed the highest and best use for this property. The county's efforts to purchase it, I heard a stormwater treatment plant, and I didn't hear anything about any economic impact for the city on the property. So economically, I still think we have the best proposal on the table. But I'm open for any questions you guys might have.
To answer your question, it's a 90-day business days for inspection and 30 days closing following the inspection of the property, which I presume is not really going to take 90 days since everything is pretty clear out there. Mm-hmm. But that's what's in the contract.
So, and you've brought forth a new offer to us, and I heard 2.43.
I did.
I just want to make a few remarks here. I mean, you guys have been extremely transparent, and you've acted in good faith, and this property has been listed on the open market, and you have pretty much done everything the city's asked with regard to your site plan, and you've been extremely fair. This is a really, personally for me, it's a tough thing because I'm looking at the numbers, and the opportunity costs of the loss of tax dollars doing something other than a proposal like yours is significant. I wish I had that figure right in front of me to know, on an annual basis what the opportunity cost of not going with that plan is as far as tax revenue goes. But in any case, it is tough because I am truly torn. I mean, having lived here my entire life and grown up going to these spring training games, the history is very important to me, and I understand that you guys have, wanted to go out of your way to incorporate that into the concept of what you're doing. And I'm not proposing this necessarily. This is truly more of a hypothetical question. I wouldn't expect it, if we don't vote this contract tonight, for you guys just to walk right out, and I wouldn't blame you if you did. But in the spirit of continuing to want to work for the highest and best use of this property with the city. If we asked, again, this is completely hypothetical, if we asked for 30 days to get our ducks in a row and understand if we really had something going with Major League Baseball, is that a deal breaker for you?
I came prepared tonight to purchase the property, and in the spirit of working with you, I would like to agree with that, but I have some partners I'd have to consult with on that. But we again have taken residential off the table and have, like you mentioned, have done everything you've asked us to do, and we are serious about first-class project for Vero Beach, and we are going to honor the history of this property. I would argue better than what the county's proposing, but I do want to be direct and answer your question, and that is, I would have to say yes, but I'd have to consult with my partners on this.
Sure. Understood. Well, thank you for being very candid. I appreciate your answer. Thank you.
And if I could just echo a little bit of what the Vice Mayor just said, it's outstanding that the county took it upon themselves to put together a meeting this morning and come up with the best offer that they could, and I truly am torn as well. This has got to be one of the toughest decisions I've ever had to make up here. But I just have a few concerns, and one of the things is, and I could be wrong, but for example, Mr. O'Malley's had a lot of time and consideration for the property. So, I'm just curious, how serious is Mr. O'Malley really about the plans for the property in the future? Also, your offer on the table is $330,000 more than what the county is able to offer.
It's $30,000.
What is it? $30,000. Sorry, $30,000 more.
But $330 more than this morning.
Than this morning, right. So, that's negligible in the scheme of things. I'm trying to take into consideration, what's fair, right? This is a business transaction, period. No matter how you look at it, one way or the other, it's a business transaction. So, what's fair? What's best for the city? We've paid, let's see, $8.6 million so far for this property. We've still got a balance of 5.3, and there's $3.9 million of interest in that. So the full price, when it's all paid for, which is in, I don't know how many years, Jim, do you know how many more years?
I think it's 2022 is the final payment. 2022, so the final payment is not $9.9 million, so what we paid, it's $13.9 million.
I understand.
At some point you have to consider cutting your losses and putting something there that's going to be functional for the future vision plan of the airport, for jobs, for the betterment of the community, and that's what I've been going on this whole time. I think this would be so much easier of a decision, and it's not by the fault of the county at all. It'd be so much easier for me if, for example, the county came in and said, we're offering 2.1. Yeah, well, that's Mr. Holbrook's now here. Or if the county came in and said, we're offering 3. Okay, well, that's enough difference for me to, either painful enough or beneficial enough. So yeah, I want to echo what you said, Mr. Vice Mayor. This is probably one of the hardest decisions I've had to make, and so I'm just kind of going over all the different variables in my mind right now, and so I just want to put that out there. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'd like to speak for the community. Think about what we've witnessed tonight. Think about it. We've spent hours talking about parking problems. We had no space. Okay, on the one hand, it's like perfect bookends, This is and it's real life. It's amazing. This is the best reality show ever. So we spent hours talking about parking problems, and now we're talking about our last big piece of open space the same night. And And who knows, maybe we'll need it for parking at some point, right? Maybe we'll have valet parking out to the Dodgertown Golf Course, because we haven't figured that out yet. So, I mean, there are all kinds of things afoot. And here, think about this, okay? Anyone who's been following this, remember, Mr. Rector was here with the downtown post office, and he's the developer, and God bless him. I felt like I was in a 1940s movie. He advised us not to sell, but then he offered to buy it just to save us from ourselves. I mean, I'm seeing a pattern here. I don't know if you get it, but I'm seeing a pattern, and the county's come in, and thank you to the county for being so frank and forthright and scheduling a special call meeting just so that they could be here tonight and waiting through all our parking problems, to speak about open space. Thank you so much for that. And think about one more thing, all right? And we've talked about this in the past. We have two pieces of property. The power plant property is going to become available to us for development within 1 to 2 years. We've already talked about this at a city council meeting previously, and we have the wastewater treatment plant. We're going to move that, and if I remember correctly, that was 3 to 5 years. So we have two nice big pieces of property to play with, and maybe, here's a thought for you. Do that first, okay, because we know that's coming up. Do that first. Then, wow, you might want that open space. You might wish you had it. You won't be able to recreate it. Thank you.
Can I just ask one question? There was a mention of an offer for shared parking related to Dodgertown. What was that conversation? What was involved in that? The county had mentioned that you had sent them an email this morning.
My understanding was they had a concern about parking for future use of Dodgertown, and I just sent them an email and said we would fully agree with working with them in any way we could to accommodate that.
Okay.
Shared parking, whatever that arrangement would be, we would be open to working with them.
Okay. So I'll just say my thought. I mean, I actually think we have good options, and I'm glad that after 13 years of a property sitting vacant and wasting $660,000 a year of taxpayer money, plus all of the upkeep and maintenance on that land, we have two potentially good options available to us. I really do like your plan better because I think that it would be used more than just a overflow space for parking. And I appreciate the county coming and making their offer, but I think that the city buying that property 13 years ago was a really not good idea, okay? And so basically what we've done is the City of Vero Beach taxpayers are paying all this money for all these years to basically provide overflow parking for the county property where they have their Dodgertown. And Dodgertown is historic, and the fact that there was a golf course there that broke the color barrier or was helping people to break the color barrier is a wonderful, great thing. But that's not what it is anymore. It's an abandoned field for 13 years that and you can Dodgertown was the gem. The county did the right thing in buying Dodgertown, okay? The city did the wrong thing in buying the vacant piece of land, okay? And so all of the historic, the talk about respecting the history of what Dodgertown is, that's all in Dodgertown. That's not in this vacant piece of land that's next door. That's my opinion. I do like that there is a positive economic impact from this plan. There are going to be, when our electric goes down and manufacturing becomes more prevalent, we have a great hub for aviation, very high-paying jobs in our community that people are going to be coming here, and there's going to be spin-offs and other things. And part of this project was office space for commercial, and it's going to be a lot of those same people who want to be there. A hotel. You have people coming in looking for Piper aircraft or engineers or other people who are coming in all the time. We have airline flights now with Elite that are going all over the place. This is a new hub that's developing, and I think that this fits with the economic future of our community. It's jobs, it's good paying jobs around there, and we do need more hotel space. A lot of people in this community talk about how they don't like short-term rentals in their neighborhood, and part of the problem is there's not enough hotel space. So, I don't think that the county's offer is bad either. I think it's great. I think the one thing for me that I like is that you're on the tax rolls, okay? So it's not just the sale price of what we sell, it's future tax revenues into perpetuity. I don't know how much that is. It would be nice to get a general ballpark of what we're talking about here, but it's not just a one-time purchase. I think there may even be a way, and this is what I'm going to propose, kind of along what Lang had suggested for the 30 days, is I would like you to start talking and getting a more concrete idea of how that parking issue might work. Because if you can come up with a more definitive agreement for how you're going to handle parking issues related to Dodgertown, it may be possible that you get to do what you're going to do, which is probably the highest best use for the property. At the same time, you can meet the need so that Dodgertown, and it could be since the Dodgers don't want to own the property, they don't want to lease part and own a different part, maybe the answer is they have some kind of lease on a parking garage or something that you put on the back part of that property where you're talking about residential. And then you can handle all the overflow. I don't know if that's the right answer, but I think that's at least worth exploring rather than...
You know, okay, I appreciate what you've done coming here, and I think probably the best, probably the best thing that it's done, it's been a catalyst to move this forward. But I can recall when the earlier discussion was on developing that piece of property, and I was against it because it didn't fit, okay? But in talking with residents and listening to them, I think what has been proposed by both of y'all fits with the vision of Vero, but more importantly, I think what the county is saying fits more specifically to what I have in my mind. But the concern, naturally, one of the concerns for me is that having the entire campus for Dodgertown would be more of an enhancement for Vero in light of the Renaissance downtown. Having a competitive market area, which is kind of what I see developing under your vision, would be another focal point for Vero. And we already have a focal point on the Barrier Island. We have a focal point in historic downtown, and now we would have a third. So that's a concern for me. In regards to hotel accommodations, I mean, there's already been a hotel accommodation at the entranceway going into Dodgertown, and there's another hotel that's being built out on 60. So I don't see an imperative at this point for a hotel specifically in that area. The other thing that comes to mind to me is if you look at the parks, and I hear, I understand, some of the arguments in that regard, but if you look at the parks north of State Road 60 and west of 27th, that's my neck of the wood. And the parks that are there right now are Piece of Pie Park and Block Manor. I mean, there's not an acre of park. And then if you look at the closest park to where that property is, it's Lake Rose. And Lake Rose is, if we want to consider Lake Rose a public accommodation, that's insane. So really, having that space there on the western part of town is something that it facilitates who we are as a community. And as far as the value of the area, and I'm like Harry and the rest of the folks here, because I try to understand the historic nature of it. And, I've been out to Dodgertown with Laura, and I understand Jackie Robinson broke the race barrier in practice field number 2. Got it. However, okay? Just like he broke the barrier on practice field 2, the fact that we had that field as a part of the, golf course, which was not have happened elsewhere, is of immense historic value. So that's another concern. And as far as private developers in regards to the airport, you can look at it 2 ways. One, it might be compatible. The other one is it competes against the city property on the airfield. I mean, Eric has property that he wants developed on the airfield, okay? And you're developing property that's off the airfield. So again, is it a plus or is it a minus? That's debatable. And I'm not sure from what the county brought up in regards to the injection wells. That's a new bit of information for me. And then the other part is the environmental sensitivity. So I think we've had a lot of good dialogue here. I think what Alma suggested was to take some additional time and to look at all of the implications for that would be very wise on our part. So.
Mr. Holbert, excuse me. I was just looking at your rendering from a couple weeks ago, and I've seen some of your work that you showed us a couple weeks ago in different cities, which, by the way, you've done a fine job.
Thank you.
And this just came to mind. Speaking of parks and green space, you're a certified green builder, right?
Correct.
It looks to me, at least if this shows any sort of accuracy for what the plan is, that there's a lot of green space.
Yeah, we did take that in consideration, and it's just, it's actually what people want, not just this council. It's what visitors want to see when they go to a place like this. It can't be a concrete jungle. It's got to have green space and places for people to go and enjoy their families.
We have it right now. We have green space.
We have a vacant lot.
Yeah, we have 13 years. We
paid
Also green space.
$8.6 million on so far.
The challenge that we have is I understand the imperative for the economic implications, and we have one offer here, and then we have the county offer, and it sounds most accommodating between those two parameters what the county brings to us, and from my point, that seems to be the better of the two. So.
Well, if we need it, I'll make a motion that we have a moratorium for 30 days. Well, we need it. I'll have to take public comment first, of course.
Yeah, I mean, certainly love to hear from the public here. I mean, my thoughts are, I would be very upset to lose this team of guys that's come in here and really, again, acted in very good faith to present something that I think most of us feel mesh with that area in the community. I do think that there's, for me, and isn't necessarily fair, but two things that have come to light. One is the legitimate, seemingly interest at this point from Major League Baseball, and two, some of the issues that the county stated with respect to how that property can be used if that parcel is sold. I would hope that it wouldn't be, a deal killer, because I am very much leaning in favor of wanting this to happen with you guys. I think you brought a great plan forward, and I would hope that, I would ask that you would consider hanging in there with us. This isn't one person or two people sitting in a room trying to make a business deal happen. This is much, much more difficult because there's a lot of other voices that we have to consider. I know there's no guarantees here, but I would like to, if there's any way, we could just have a bit more time to flush this out. And again, please know that I am very much leaning towards wanting to do everything we can to make this happen. I'd just like to get some additional answers. So anyway, that's.
And if I could just play devil's advocate for a moment, one fear, and I'm not saying that any of this is being done with any malice at all, but one fear I have is if your partners say, no, look, we're tired of fooling around with this, and you're gone, bye, right? And the county runs into some sort of an issue, unforeseen issue, I don't know, whatever that might be, can't come up with it. We're left basically where we are now, and we have an empty lot that we're spending over $600,000 a year on to mow, and that's so that's obviously a concern that I.
And to your point, I mean that's one of my concerns as well. I feel like I have a gauge on how the community is reacting to the potential of the county wanting this property, but sitting here. While I'm extremely grateful for their offer, and I think it's fine, there are a lot of details, unfortunately, we don't have as far as an actual contract, due diligence period, closing, when would that happen? What's the penalty if they decide to back out? As you mentioned, we're still sitting in the exact same position without you. So, there are some unanswered questions on both sides that I feel like I don't have all the information I need for at this point. But anyway, I'm just bringing those to the table here.
Does anyone else have any?
I guess everyone thinks their idea is good, but I think that there's a way that you can potentially have a win-win here where what it sounds like the main thing that Major League Baseball is interested in is parking issues, and there may be a way that you guys can do your development at the same time, provide the parking that they need, and then most everybody's satisfied, not people who want it to stay a green field, but I doubt that Major League Baseball is going to keep it as a green field.
Mm-hmm. And I respect that.
And so I think that I think if we don't do something today, I think the first thing I would do is I would talk to both the county and Major League Baseball and see what they're interested in with this, and see whether you can come back with that. And I too, there is a big risk to not doing this right now, and that is that you walk away and then the county says, well, we don't have to, the city's stuck with it, so we don't have to buy it anymore either. So then we're all...
Could I just address that?
Oh, no, I'm just saying it's possible.
Three of you all have said that now.
Okay.
And let me just tell you, I find that very offensive.
I was not intended to be offensive, but...
We came here in good faith. We made you an offer.
Yeah.
We're willing to stick to our offer.
I apologize. I didn't mean it that way.
Discussion about us backing out is wrong.
Okay.
I just want to say that.
Okay. But you're not obligated if we turned it down. That's all I was saying.
Sir, okay?
Okay.
You have the word of the chairman of the county commission of any county.
I apologize. I didn't really in any way mean to offend you. I really didn't.
And if I could just address the contract, it has an effective date of October 7th. So that's a little over a month from now. Then they have 90 business days for due diligence. That's not 90 calendar days. That sounds an awful lot like 3 months, but that's 5 months. And then there's another 30 days towards closing. And to the chairman's point, I don't think you're ahead, and I think the county can close faster than this. I don't think there's any, we're in the public record saying $2.4 million. I can tell you, in addition to the chairman, I would never back away from that. I think the county commission would be in a terrible position to say, oh, you lost your other deal, we're not going to give you that money anymore. I think that would be a horrific thing to do, and I don't think we would do it. And I just have to say, I didn't mention it before, restrictions on use of the property in your contract says it is the buyer's intention to restrict development and use of the property to commercial uses such as restaurants, markets, professional offices, and hotels with no residential development being permitted. The exact language of such restriction shall be agreed to by the seller and buyer prior to closing. So I think the development that happens there is something that's been very important to this council from what I've heard, but the language hasn't been set there, so I just want to mention that as well. I think you should get more certainty on that before making a determination.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. We have one more speaker before we go to public comment. Yes, sir.
Joseph Paladin. I'm the president of Black Swan Consulting. I'm also the president of Atlantic Coast Building. A few things. One thing is for sure, there is a historic value to Dodger Down. Always has been, means a lot to the city, means a lot to the county. It's a matter of, I'm a developer. It's risk and reward. There's several developments around town that started out to be a good idea. We have them there right now. Liberty Park, Orchid Quay, Crystal Bay, Blue Water Bay. I can name 10 more. The county isn't going anywhere. The county's here. They're staying here. Now, there's a certain amount of revenue that's come to this area because of the way the county and the cities maintain this area and the businesses there through Dodger Town. You know, through the different projects that we bring in, the different episodes, the different special interests come in and do things. There's a certain amount of revenue that's not going to stop. So it's sort of like that ad on TV where the stockbroker says, wouldn't it be nice to be able to go up and never go down? Well, here, there's a lot of things that can happen in the future with this piece of property when the county buys the whole piece. It can never go down. It's going to stay the way it is now because they've maintained this over the years with y'all. But there's other things that the county can be involved in as far as future development, as far as future business, as far as future escrow, revenue status. That's always out there. You can always go forward. You're not going to ever go backward because the county's going to keep maintaining what is maintained as business in this area from this point forward. So you can't lose. So it's risk and reward. With the development, I don't know this developer that well. I'm not saying anything negative about him. I would never do that. I've done a dozen developments in this county. I've done probably 50 or 60 of them around the state. A lot of developments start out with good intentions. A lot of them don't finish. A lot of them don't wind up the way they start. There's risk there. You have the least amount of risk with the county's offer and the most amount of reward. So I think you need to take that into consideration, your risk and reward. The county's not going to back out. You just heard the chairman say that. Yes. And they made a good offer that's compatible with that. I don't want to get into a bidding war up here at the podium. The county doesn't want to do it. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that with what I'm saying, you have no risk with the county. The county's going to do what they say they're going to do. They're not going anywhere. You know the county. You've worked with them for years. Doing a development with the project, once you make that commitment to do that development, if something goes wrong, you're putting yourself at risk. There's risk there. This is what I do for a living. There's risk there. There's always risk there. As a developer, very few times have I ever gone forward with all my cash and said there's no risk. You heard him say there's people he's got to answer to. There's always people you got to answer to when you use other people's money. There's risk there. Your most secure deal is with Indian River County, what Chairman O'Brien just said. And your chance of going forward is good. Very good. We don't know how far it'll go. We don't know what we'll do. We may do a joint venture. We may wind up doing some development there. We don't know. But you'll never go backwards. That's a great position for you to be in. So I think you need to consider the pluses and minuses of going forward with a development that you don't have any guarantees on. And staying with the county that you've been with for so many years, you're not going to lose any of the revenue you got right now today. Not going to lose 1 cent of it, ever. And the chance of you going forward with more revenue is definite. It's impossible not to. And the risk factor, which is what I always enter into when I do a development, risk reward. The risk is so minimal with the county that it's almost not there. The risk of going forward with a whole new development that sounds good, nice. I've done nice pictures, I've done them, high risers, the whole thing. You don't know until you get it done. There's risk there. You don't have no risk with the county. I suggest you do this deal with the county. You guys keep working together like you have in the past. You make a good partnership, and the county and you, and who knows what we'll do in the future with that piece of property. We don't know. And like you said, you have 2 other hotels being built in the area. You can't base your whole deal around a picture that you're going to build this beautiful hotel and it's going to bring you all this revenue. You have revenue now coming in from what we're doing. That's not going to stop. It's only going to get better. And especially if Major League Baseball comes in and works with you. I have some familiarity with Major League Baseball. My brother-in-law is Mike Veck, Bill Veck's son. He was the commissioner of baseball. I know what I'm talking about. If these people bring in the Major League Baseball, this thing's going to explode even more than it has. And they've done a pretty darn good job so far. And that's year-round. It's just not spring training like we used to have it. It's year-round. Year-round net revenue. It's only going to get better. It's going to get a lot better. But what I stress more than anything is you have no risk. Think about the risk, gentlemen. That's what I do for a living. I risk. I risk money. And sometimes you lose money. You have no risk with the county.
Thank you, sir. Does anybody have any more questions for Mr. Holbert before we go to public comment?
That was public comment. Excuse me. Huh? That was public comment. Yeah, I thought he was with that.
Any questions?
Thank you.
We'll start taking more.
I think I'm all right. Let me just have your hand.
God bless you, because you were there this morning at 11 a.m. and we're still here, and thanks to the county commission.
Good evening, Mayor Howell and members of the City Council. I am Alma-Lee Loy, a very, very, very tired native of Florida, native of Vero Beach. At this point, I really don't know what to say. However, one suggestion is, when I keep hearing highest and best use of a piece of property, okay, the highest use has one definition, and that is the man who wants to sell something and put the money in his pocket. The other definition is the best use is the one who's going to leave a legacy for the people that come in the future. Now, this particular piece of property, because of its location, is so important to the development, the continued development of what you and I know as Dodgertown. When Peter O'Malley says Major League Baseball is coming, Major League Baseball will come. Peter is a man of his word, and you have to put some trust in the people who are actually going to make things really happen. And I am so torn, because the highest and best use of the piece of property that we're talking about is not to be developed into things that are not compatible with Dodgertown. So, let me see. The other thing is, you can't put a price tag on parks. You can't put a price tag on fresh air. You can't put a price tag on the things that have meant so much to the people in this community for so long. There's no way. The oxygen that comes is good for all of us. The more parks we have, the more oxygen we have, the more green space we have, the more people that can enjoy being outside and being healthy. we need to always remember the people who have helped create the quality of life of the past, and join with those of today who wish to make their contributions to this special city. Our quality of life has been a major ingredient in the development of this something special city. I know as sure as I sit down, I'm going to think of one more thing.
If you do. Special permission to return to
In no time limit.
That I wish I'd said. Well, here's one. Here's one. We are one of very few communities that presently enjoy the efforts of early baseball leaders to establish Dodgertown and to make their facilities available to the public as they continually preserve their early history. And I do thank you. You've had a long night, and so have I.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Public comment still open.
Hi, everybody. All right, let me cue this up. Mayor and Council, Deborah Atwell, Chairman, City of the Vero Beach Historic Preservation Commission. I think I can speak for everyone when I say, gee, thanks for wrecking our holiday weekend. This is pretty much all we've thought about, labored over the entire time. Council, tonight we face the ultimate fate of a singularly unique and important asset to this city. Because my commission members and I have accepted the responsibility to advocate for this city's historic resources, I must for the record outline for you, perhaps one last time, what you are divesting the city of, previously against our advice and against an outspoken sizable number of city residents and city leaders. The volume of heartfelt calls and emails that I have received more than at any other time in my association with the city tells me that this is real. An engaged, concerned, and passionate community here compels me to remind you all that we, the city, will soon be short one historic cultural landscape. One important green space that was land banked by listen up, by a previous city governance capable of recognizing their responsibility to life and a future vision of Vero Beach. The Dodgertown acreage could have been a casualty of what was viewed as council's unnecessary expedients and rapidly setting about selling city key character properties. I feel nothing I have iterated before has helped you to clearly see this parcel not as an onerous debt on the city's books, but as an asset that could never, ever be measured in dollars. Maybe somehow I've been remiss that you've missed this message. You should all be familiar enough with hearing these facts, that this tract, like the Sports Village, would merit federal, state, and local landmark designations because of its affiliation with Major League Baseball's early glory days. We've seen the movies. And because it is the other portion of the same parcel that doesn't require any thinking. This is the history that makes us so unique in ways that other cities are not. It is a big chunk of this city's character. Again, you will hear me say, this would of course add to the tourist value, the local value, grant eligibility value. I've talked myself blue in the face. You know that the site has additional value as a Black cultural legacy site, and that the National Trust first grant offering to celebrate Black cultural history received the largest response in the history of the Trust this year. So this site's revealed identity is timely. They have encouraged us to apply for future grant cycle offerings. So, we have the historic value, and it amounts to the parcel is a portion of Major League Baseball history, parcel is a tourism catalyst, parcel is integral part of Vero's unique character, parcel is eligible for participation in a wide variety of grant and community development funds. I just did a little bit of superficial research, and even the governor is crazy for this. They're buying conservation rights. They're not even buying conservation rights anymore. They're buying huge tracts of farmland because they know this is coming. There's a schematic online. You can see what the projection is for 50 years from now, and the whole state is red with development. Also to consider, the parcel has community benefit value as a rare endangered, thank you, Ms. Moss, endangered open space. Council majority has been reluctant to consider as a value reference the earliest progressive thought days in Vero, 1999, 2008, showing our earliest attempts to protect against total build-out by acquiring green space, of green concepts, of land banking to provide relief from what will be eventual total development, or to recognize even the daily visual relief value that would come from retaining this ample corner acreage, let's call it acreage, not a golf course for now, and simply upgrading its landscaping and maintenance. And truly, this is a classic mistake, you're not alone, made by other city officials, the erroneous thinking that cost of keeping and maintaining these places exceeds their true value. You can't do that. You can't look at these places like that. You can't apply the same rationale. Like our diesel plant, there is much value and much history concealed in what now looks like an expensive, minimally maintained asset. It just needs sound and well-informed ownership. And the people of Vero Beach, the true owners of the site today, have great concern and great affection for all of Dodgertown Village. In my own best dreams about this property, given the county's existing adjacent village ownership, I had hoped for some truly sensational joint venture effort to produce a family-oriented outdoor gathering place where the sky would be the limit. A place with activities that surpassed our riverside parks where people would naturally gravitate, enjoy the outdoors with friends and family. But that whole idea stepped onto a moving sidewalk heading 100 miles an hour into a sudden sale with a developer from Orlando.
Mrs. Howe, if you could summarize your time's up.
I'm going to continue talking for like 2 more minutes, if you wouldn't mind.
No, that's not how we run the meeting. See, we give people time, and I just gave you a little bit more time, and we have other people to listen to tonight. So, unfortunately, you don't control the meeting. So summarize your point, please.
If you give me 2 more minutes, I can do that very expediently.
2 more minutes. Thank you.
We are very much in favor of the tract. If we are going to sell it to county. We feel like they would be the best stewards of this cultural legacy.
Thank you.
Rather than run the risk.
Thank you very much.
Of an outside developer.
Thank you. More public comment, please.
I'm George Blythe. I could have yielded a little bit of my time to her, but I only have one thing to say. You have at least $300,000 more tonight than you had this morning, courtesy of the county.
Thank you, sir.
Maybe we'll get another offer in the morning, George.
Hey, Mark.
Linda Hillman, 2315 18th Avenue. I want to say thank you to the county. I attended the meeting this morning, and I sure do appreciate their thought and concern and consideration in keeping this property. And I'm not going to stand up here and repeat everything that was said already, because I don't want to be considered a golden girl filibuster. So I'm just going to go with the comment that I wrote this morning after I attended the meeting, and it says, all of us have ideas or feelings we're certain about, beliefs we'll never shake, truths we hold to be evident to ourselves, no ifs, ands, or buts. And yet many of us have also been through confusing and painful times of realizing or having the incredible reward in the process of changing our minds. Maybe the change happened because we learned some new information tonight, or maybe our information came from someone else. But challenging our own thinking is just a way of us growing up. So however it happens, the point is that even when we're sure we know something is positive and possible for our opinions, we need to change sometimes and evolve into something else. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hellman. Yes, ma'am.
Mayor, councilors, I'm Nancy Griffiths. I was born and raised here, and I love Vero Beach, and I'm finished my career elsewhere, and I'm returning here. And what I loved about Vero Beach was the open spaces when I was little. This property in particular, I used to roam. All my friends, we used to go horseback riding and everything. We loved the open space. There's no place that you can even, west of I-95 to really go hiking anywhere, do anything out of doors, any quality of life that I used to. The places where I used to roam in the woods, in this property in particular, can't get to access it anymore. And it's one of the few places that I could if there wasn't any signs and no trespassing, because there's a lot of beautiful property back there, and the history goes beyond and before Dodgertown even. That was naval property. They have a lot of unusual things back there, used to. And that's where I learned to shoot a gun, out at the rifle range, take our dump stuff out to the dump, go to the archery range. It was the most beautiful archery range in the world back there. It's beautiful country back there. And nowadays, the kids, they gather at parking lots. They don't go out in the woods and learn nature. They don't have appreciation of these things. And I think green space like that would be wonderful for our community. These are the things that attract people to Vero because of these nice things that we have. And I really thank the county commissioners coming and proposing this offer. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Vicki Gould, 1901 23rd Avenue. I thought Debbie's speech was, maybe it went too long, but it was very eloquent, so I'm going to finish it up for her. FYI, we are still very much recovering from an instant out-of-the-blue sale of our income-earning largest tract of downtown real estate, done without any real notice to our devotedly hardworking Florida Main Street organization, or the city's Historic Preservation Commission, or the Cultural Council. The entire east side of Don Smith Street was purchased by Michael Rector. It was a bizarre relief of sorts, but the methodology tells us that we are clearly, as a city, not interested in recognizing the struggles to produce an economic downtown rebirth, or by the same token to recognize the value and merit of 35 acres at Dodgertown. I, meaning Debbie, attended the County Commission's meeting this morning and heard our commission members say everything that this city's people have been waiting for you to say. They are ready to do everything right, make this legendary property whole again, and be good stewards. Put it to use in a way that honors its history and provides for this community. This is family. This will still be a great asset to city residents. It is my heartfelt wish and recommendation, after weighing everything, to recommend a sale to the county while hopefully showing them at least as much appreciation and special consideration as you did with Mr. Rector and the vanishing post office. My gratitude again to the members of our county commission, and I leave them with this favored preservation call from John Ruskin 175 years ago. When we build, let us think that we build forever. Let it not be for present delight, nor for present delight alone. Let it be such work as our descendants will thank us for, and let us think think, as we lay stone on stone, that a time is to come when those stones will be held sacred because our hands have touched them, and that men will say as they look upon the labor and wrought substance of them, see, this is what our fathers have done for us. Thank you, County Commission, for doing this for us.
Thank you, Vicki. And thank you for being mindful of your time and others.
Thank you, Don.
Ryan Bass. I just want a quick clarification. I just heard a couple of things. I just want to clarify is the county committing to never developing this property?
That's not what I heard.
I'm just wondering if that's the commitment.
The commitment is that it would be kept in open space or passive recreational use, things like that. It would not be developed. We mentioned like maybe potential stormwater area, but I would not consider that as developing the property. It'd be open space, open water, passive recreational trails, things like that.
Peter, while you're there, there's one other thing that's going to be needed, and that would be an easement along the western boundary on 43rd. We were going to do that through site plan and site review of the developer. I presume that you all would stick with that, even though it's not in the contract. It was one of those discussions.
Absolutely, Jim, yeah, for working on 43rd. And Mr. Mayor, if I may, I'd like to apologize to the council. I got a little hot earlier, and so I apologize to you all.
Hey, that's just passion.
And Councilmember Zudans,
I really did not intend to offend you in any way. I looked at it as if you were not obligated if we didn't accept your offer right now. So I was just saying that there's a risk that we don't have an offer in hand if we don't accept it. That's all I was trying to say. But it came off the wrong way, and I apologize.
I just got a little fired up, and so I just want to personally apologize to all the council members.
You're not even Italian.
Yeah, and I want to echo Councilman Zudan's words as well. Nothing that I said was meant to be malign toward you or the county. I have to look at everything, as you know, from all angles and watch out for the best interests of the city. And so I just try to throw everything out there on the table. But thank you.
I just, as we're discussing this, I think the parallel that comes to my mind, and you may laugh at it, but at Gettysburg, there was a development that was going to put a tower up there with a rotating restaurant up top. Okay. There are certain parts of our country that have something that is of enormous value, and as we're planning on the centennial for Vero, one of the things that's clearly been demonstrated is that parcel of land, it may have come at a cost because we've had to maintain it, but the clarity of the discussion that we've had over this last month or so has shown, at least to me, that the greater value is to take the opportunity that's being availed to us by the county to retain it as a place that not only Vero Beach but the county seat for the county respects, and Peter O'Malley and the Dodgers have a sensitivity to that, and I realize, as stewards for the taxpayers, that we should always bear in mind what the economic impact is, but in the offer that was brought forward, we are addressing our stewardship responsibility for economic responsibility, and in also keeping with the historical aspects of that piece of land. Many of us, Lang and Harry and I and all who grew up here, we get it, and I hope that we just work in the right direction to maintain that. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Young. Yes, sir. You going to say something?
I realize there's high stakes and there is a risk here, but I'd really like to see this tabled for 30 days until we get some more answers.
Is there any further discussion, or I'll make the motion?
Is there any more public comment, by the way? So we can close that up now? Okay.
Okay, first I'd like to thank the County Commission for a thoughtful, insightful meeting this morning on short notice, and for being here tonight. It's almost 12 hours later. God bless you. It's a long day. I sat with you this morning, and you sat with us tonight through the whole thing. So thank you so much for that. And I would like to move at this point that the council adopt a 30-day moratorium with regard to the sale of the Dodgertown Golf Course property.
Yeah, I don't know that I would call it a moratorium. I think we're just table this specific topic for 30 days. I don't know, is there a legal differential there?
Either one's doing the same thing. All right,
like. That's fine.
We're just making no decision.
If you want to have it come back a date certain, we could specify the date that it would come back.
I'd like to, for 30 days.
So looking at the calendar.
2 meetings from now.
What are we talking about?
October 2nd would be.
Say again?
October 2nd would be your
30-day meeting.
Roughly 30 days.
I'd like to use the word moratorium because I think it honors Amelie Loy, who actually asked for a moratorium a while back.
Months ago. She knows the date.
Thank you.
I think that's a minimum we could do. I agree.
Councilman Zudans, any words?
I actually think it's a good idea because I think it, to be honest, there's not the will to sell anything today, and it gives people the opportunity to talk and see whether there's some mutually beneficial thing that's even better than what we've been thinking about right now. And I hope that's what that time is spent, is trying to figure out whether there's something that works even better. But so I think it's a good idea. I don't think we really are going to do anything else, so why don't we just do that?
Councilwoman Moss has a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
I have just one question.
Yes, sir.
Is there an expectation of us bringing something back to you, or you're just going to put it on the agenda and talk about it?
I think you should allow the parties that are here to continue exploration of what the opportunities are that they can come back with, so that we can...
So the parties would come back and make a presentation to you all?
Yeah, I think that's
okay. I just want to make sure, I don't know, was there an expectation of me doing something, but
yeah, I mean, I'd like to, I absolutely respect Commissioner O'Brien and the County Commission for coming here. And you did, Jason, there was a physical contract came over from you guys already? I'm sorry, I missed that because it wasn't on the...
Yeah, I haven't seen...
We have not sent over a physical contract. I talked to the county attorney about that, and he was of the thinking that we could provide something very similar to the purchase contract that you have with the developer.
Well, if we could, have that back with the easement that you requested for the next meeting, and I think we just vote on it and put it to bed.
What I'd like to see happen is I'd like to see you speak with Jason, and if we can, with Major League Baseball and the other proposed, to talk to them and see if there's some mutually beneficial relationship between all these groups.
Or as you know, I did talk to Mr. O'Malley.
Yeah, I know, but you can give them an update on what happened.
Yeah, I don't think there's really anything you can do, Jim.
And I think that's where I was going to. I don't think so either.
Yeah, I think it's going to be up to talks with the county. Of course, I want to have some talks with Commissioner O'Brien and Mr. Holbert, and I want them to have some conversation together if they please, and so we can just kind of table this or put a moratorium on this for 30 days or until our October 2nd meeting.
October 2nd, okay. Just wanted to get...
Jason.
When is that meeting on October 2nd?
Is that 3:30?
I think 5.
It'll be 5.
5?
It'll be 5? Okay.
So my question.
Generally,
We just have our morning meetings, so I want to make sure we don't have a conflict.
The first Tuesday is at 5 and the third Tuesday is at 3. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
5.
Oh,
It's
5. Yeah, okay.
You
Hopefully our meeting will be over by then.
I hope so.
No doubt.
You do this too?
So we didn't take a vote. We didn't take a vote. So all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Okay. Hey,
Do you think you ought to hear from the developer at all? I mean, he's sort of set back there.
yeah,
I know he
sure.
has to check with his partners.
Sure.
Yeah, Mr. Holt, please.
Do you have any questions or anything?
While he's on the way up, I'd just like to say special thanks to Commissioner Flusher, who's still here in the back row. Thank you. The father of the bride, and Mr. Brown, and of course, Chairman O'Brien.
I really didn't have any follow-up questions. I just wanted to say thank you for your consideration. I think that we all work in good faith, and I really believe we have the best plan for the property. I believe that with all my heart, so just consider it. And I came here in hopes you would approve the contract, and I'm asking you now to approve the contract. So if that's a possibility, I would like you to consider it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holbert.
I do have a question. Jason, you had alluded to a meeting that y'all were anticipating with MLB. Is that right?
In the next couple of weeks.
Okay, well, good. So
we will have had that meeting by the time we come back.
That's what I was wanted to confirm.
Council, does anybody want to take 5? I know it's
one
late.
more comment, I think.
Okay. Oh, yes, sir.
I'll be quick. Good evening. I wanted to address one person. Lang, I wanted to thank you for your comment, seems like a long time ago, in regards to the preparation, the time, the effort, the resources, and the money that we've put in as the little guys. Very, very much appreciated that you understand that aspect. We are hopeful to be able to do this with the city, with Dodgertown, with the county. We would all be in this together. Should we get your vote. But I just wanted to thank you for recognizing that. That means a lot to us because, again, we are the little fish. And it's an enormous effort on our part to do what we've done so far. And it's much, much appreciated. And I also went to the county meeting this morning, and I sat and listened, and I know how much time we've been going back and forth with you from the beginning, before it was stressed as an importance to the council. We had the history element highlighted. We also had not only the history element that we feel is important, but the green space with the pocket parks. It's all in there already. And that's all I want to say.
Sir, your good faith has not gone unnoticed, and you guys are, you've done an incredible job, and I respect that very much, and I'm sorry to, not have things go the way everyone wants, but unfortunately that's the nature of this game here. And, so I would ask, and I hope that you'll hang in there with us. I respect, if that decision won't work for you all, but hopefully we can have some productive talks here and see what happens.
Well, I can tell you one thing. We do hope that it works out the best for Vero Beach.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you all for all of your comments. Certainly it plays into, it just shows how much everybody really does care about this town and the people that are in it. So, and to the county, again, because that was pretty incredible for you to put that together so quickly. And
absolutely.
Thank you for that. Do you want to move on to the next order of business? Yes, sir?
Say again?
You want to move on to the next order of business, or you want to take 5? I could take 5.
Yeah, let's take 5.
Okay.
We need a 5.
All right, let's take a 5-minute recess. Be back at 10:02.
You have to take a vote at 11 if we go past then, so just keep an eye on the clock.